So today we're going to talk about something I get asked a lot about, but I've never covered in depth here on my channel, and that is medical tourism here in Dominican Republic. A lot of people travel here for wellness, procedures, dental work, and recovery. So today I'm sitting down with Yara Carvajal, who actually works inside of this world, who help people navigate the process from start to finish. So Yara, welcome to the channel.
Thank you for having me. Hi guys.
So Yara, tell people who you are and what do you do?
Awesome. All right, so like Jay said, I'm Yara. So I moved here about 10 years ago. I'm originally from New Jersey. I was a patient that eventually was given an opportunity to work in this space. I help foreigners mainly navigate the wellness space here. So anything from plastic surgery, dental, health, overall health, preventative measures, recovery, surrogacy, anything that you could think of healthcare-wise, I will help you through that process.
So what originally got you into medical tourism?
Yeah, okay, so I lost a lot of weight about 10 years ago. I looked into the surgery industry here. I actually became a patient and I fell in love with the entire process of what that entailed. I thought everybody treated me like a queen. It was a very seamless and organized process. The only thing that was maybe a little bit different was the customer service. And I felt that I could, make that better for the patient.
So when did you realize that there was a real need for this type of service?
So when I got here for the surgery is when I realized that there was a need for the service. There was a lot of patients, I'm fully bilingual, so there was a lot of patients in the recovery house that were a little bit confused as to what their process was because they could not understand the language. So when I saw that there were so many patients that were having trouble navigating the process, the general process overall, then I realized, hey, I can be of use here for sure.
So what were you seeing that made you want to build a concierge style business?
Yeah, so I was seeing a little bit of holes in the customer service side of things. Not so much on the care. I was very well taken care of. But on the customer service side of things, because there is a difference of language, right? Not everybody knows Spanish. So there was a lot of miscommunications that would happen. Even with other patients that I saw next to me, they really didn't understand. So I became like the unofficial translator of the office when I was there and of the recovery house, just making sure that everybody understood what was going on. I know that not knowing the language can be very frustrating. So yeah, I just saw a need for that. And that was a huge pain point in that regard.
So you kind of got appointed by default?
By default, yeah. By default, for sure. I was the girl who spoke Spanish, so everybody was like, hey, what are they saying to me? Or, a lot of de-escalating just de-escalating overall of some minor issues, yeah.
Was there a moment where you realized that, hey, I can make a business out of it? Was that moment?
Yeah, so I was here for 2 weeks originally, and before I left, I'm the type of person, I'm from Jersey originally, like I mentioned. I didn't love New Jersey. I just didn't know where else I wanted to be. I never had that light bulb moment. But right before I left here, I was like, there's a real need for me. There's a real need for me. Like I said, there was a pain point in the industry. So before I left, I was like, I'm moving here. Okay. And I'm doing this.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when people hear the word medical tourism, what does that actually mean? Because it can mean a lot of things, right?
Yes, it can mean a lot of things. So medical tourism is, in very simple terms, just means going elsewhere other than where you live for medical procedures. So that's in very layman's terms. So if you live wherever you might live in the United States, going abroad is considered medical tourism.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So what kind of procedures are people traveling here for the most?
Yeah, so the most popular procedure is a mommy makeover.
So I hear mommy makeover a lot. I don't know what that means. When I think of mommy makeover, I think about, I don't know.
You don't know?
No. What is that?
Yeah, so mommy makeover in Dominican Republic means a tummy tuck, lipo 360, BBL, which also means Brazilian butt lift, which just means fat into your derriere, and also your breast. So whether it be a breast lift with implants or just a breast lift, those procedures combined all equate to a mommy makeover.
Okay. I learned something today. Mommy, I hear that a lot. I hear it a lot, and I didn't know what it consists of. I knew it consists of, some type of procedure, but I didn't know that it actually had 3 parts that made up a mommy makeover.
Correct, yes.
Okay, that makes sense. Where are most of your clients coming from?
So most of our clients come from the United States, just a wide range of different kinds of states. We also get a lot of Canadian patients. We get, I've had like a lot of Nigerian patients, people from Spain, from Puerto Rico. So it really is a global hub here for surgery. I would say that the majority is from the United States, but we do get, from all over the world.
Okay. So one question is, do you help them choose a doctor to do the mommy makeover or the procedure, or do you have a doctor that you work with exclusively?
So good question, and both. So I work with 2 specific surgeons exclusively. However, if they're very on a case-by-case basis, depending on the patient's situation, if for some reason those 2 doctors are not a match, then I would go ahead and help patients, choose the best doctor for their case and, make that match for them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. And do you help them coordinate their travel?
Everything. So everything from A to Z. The moment that you guys reach out to me, I am your go-to girl. I do literally everything. I will help look for flights if I have to, if it's a situation where the patient cannot or does not know how to make those arrangements. So literally everything.
Yeah. So like we say in the South, from the rooty to the tooty, you answer with everything. Okay.
Literally everything. They don't have to worry about anything as it relates to their surgery. Obviously, there's questions and stuff that's involved, but yeah, literally everything.
So what happens the day that they land here? What happens?
So when the patient lands, that's when the fun begins again.
The fun or the scary part?
No, the fun. The fun starts when the patient lands in the country.
Okay.
So once the patient arrives, they have labs. So we do full-blown analysis here. If you have any pre-existing conditions or anything like that, you should always come with a clearance from your doctor. However, when you arrive here, you do have full-scale labs. So you land, we go through any types and all the types of labs that you have to get. We have a laundry list of labs that the patient has to get. And then
prior to the surgery,
correct, to be cleared for surgery. So that can take anywhere from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Let's say we're starting in the beginning of the day. In the afternoon, we'll wait for your lab results to come back. We'll assess if there's any variances in labs. And then afterwards, towards the evening time, we will have, pending that there's no issues with any labs or anything like that, then it will be like, hey, your surgery time is 6 a.m. and let's do this.
Okay.
So it's the fun day. Doing the labs is the fun day.
So how do you vet the doctors and the clinics that you work with?
Right. So that's a really important question. Absolutely. I started first with the surgeon who did my surgery. I came out fine and everything was great. And I saw how he managed the patients and how he treated them. So from my personal experience, I vetted the first doctor that I was working with. The second doctor is a colleague of mine's family member and also highly trained, highly skilled. And I've met a lot of her patients as well. So from experience is how I vetted her. Aside from that though, I've been doing this a very long time. It's more from personal experience and knowing how their practices work. So I've been in very prominent surgeons' office to see how they're managing their lab process, how their communication works, et cetera, et cetera. So I'd say that I don't recommend any doctor that I personally would not have surgery with. Right. And that's very important to me. And of course, any safety issues, any safety concerns, this is a small community. People speak about their experiences. So I wouldn't ever suggest a surgeon that does not have maybe the best reputation, the best bedside manner, etc.
So for a person that's saying, hey, you know what, I'm just gonna go Lone Ranger by myself and I'm gonna do this process myself, vet the doctor and all that, what do you recommend they look for when they're trying to search for a surgeon abroad? From
the patient's point of view, I think that the most important thing that you can look for is the communication of the practice. How they treat you before, during, is how they're going to treat you afterwards. Right. So if you are barely getting any responses, if your questions are going unanswered, if your anxiety is going unanswered, if you basically can't get through to them before, trust me, it's not going to change afterwards. If their bedside manner, even though they're not bedside yet, but if their attention to detail is not there before, it also will not be there afterward.
Gotcha.
So I think that that's something that's very important.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what are some mistakes you see people make trying to do this on their own?
I see a lot of mistakes. So there is a lot of miscommunications. There's a lot of misunderstandings as it relates to the things getting lost in translation. One thing I will mention is that people traveling here tend to have, a lot of people are from the United States or from whichever country they're coming from, and they have their own customs, and they have their own mannerisms, their own ways of being. When you come to Dominican Republic, not that you have to lose those customs or those ways of being, but we should be a little bit more mindful of them, only because we are traveling to Dominican Republic. It is a foreign land, and to you, foreign to the patient that's coming. And we have to be a little bit more flexible with the way that we manage certain things.
I agree. So what does recovery look like for someone who has surgery here? What does that look like?
Yeah, so recovery is tough. I am not going to lie. It's definitely eventful, but I will say that it's a more pleasant recovering here versus maybe, not to knock the United States, but the process in the United States is a little bit different or very much different. So here, they don't let you leave. You stay in the hospital 24 hours. They watch you, they monitor you, they make sure that you are okay. The next day you leave, you are very well taken care of, on top of your medications. You're not really having to think about any of these things. Everyone is managing that process for you.
When you say that it's not easy, what do you mean when you say recovery is not easy?
Mentally, recovery is not easy, you guys. No, you go through a lot. There's a lot of, there's post-op hormones from the medication. You're away from your family, you're in pain, you're uncomfortable. There's just a lot of things that as a patient you go through emotionally through this process. So I think that part is probably the hardest part.
So you just don't jump about the table and like, hey, I'm out of here.
No. And that's not an expectation either. Here they're very much focused on making sure that you are resting, that you're eating correctly, that you are making time for you, that you're making sure that you're taking the time to heal properly.
And how long do people typically stay in DR for this process? And I know it probably depends on what procedures you get.
Correct, yep.
So tell us, what's the average time frame?
Yeah, so the Ministry of Health wants patients to stay here 14 to 15 days minimum. Granted, it does vary by the type of procedure that you have. Recommended is always more amount of days. Some surgeons recommend for you to stay 21 days. Some surgeons are okay with 12 days. So it really depends, again, on the procedure. However, I would say that the average is 14 to 15 days.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what type of support does one need after that surgery?
Emotional support.
Okay.
Do
most people have that because they travel by themselves? Most of them, right?
Yeah, most of them do travel by themselves. We do have couples that come, siblings that come, friends that come. Okay. So, and they're more than welcome. You can always bring a friend, a family member, etc. But I just mean overall, like even when you're calling home, emotional support is a big thing. You don't want to call home and they're like, why did you do this? Right. You know what I mean? Which can happen as well. But emotional support is a big
They come without telling somebody and then they come back a brand new person.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense. You see these videos or you hear these stories about people coming to the DR and it's not working out well for them during their procedure. What are some of the myths people have about getting procedures done in Dominican Republic?
So I think the biggest myth is that you're not safe here. Unfortunately, plastic surgery is a risk regardless of where you go, guys. And I will literally repeat that always. No matter where you go, plastic surgery is a risk. Again, you guys are choosing to undergo these procedures, right? They're not something that's medically necessary, or maybe sometimes they are, but for the most part. So I think the biggest myth is that it's not safe here. Surgeons here really go above and beyond. Is there a few bad apples? Absolutely. We are not going to deny that. Unfortunately, that happens in any case, But I think that's the biggest myth, yeah.
So when you say risk, it's very risky. why do you say it's very risky, and what type of risk?
So it just depends. There's a wide variety of risks that can happen. You know, pulmonary embolism can happen. That's one of them.
And is that when your blood or something
clots?
Clot. Yeah. Okay.
So there's a wide array of things that can happen. Unfortunately, it's not as common as people think. You know.
Okay.
Unfortunately, Dominican Republic is very transparent. When we do have an occurrence here, they're not trying to hide things for the most part, etc. So you do see it, I guess, more in the public eye.
Mm-hmm.
But these kinds of occurrences do happen everywhere. And again, plastic surgery is a risk.
It sounds like plane crashes. Like,
correct.
It's, you know, when one happens, people make a big deal out of it. But people don't realize that it's thousands and thousands of flights taking off and landing a day.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I would assume that there's thousands, not just here, but just thousands general of plastic surgery happening every day. And then you get those 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 cases that just go wrong.
Correct. And also we have to be mindful that, like, when those kinds of things happen, us, the public eye, will never know for sure what happened.
Mm-hmm.
So it's unfortunate and it's sad and it's tragic for everyone, but the whole industry mourns. You know what I mean? Everybody gets hit by that. Like, you know what I'm saying?
So what type of person shouldn't get these procedures done? Because, you know, I see women sometime and they don't really need it, man. And it's like, I can understand, like, say, in certain circumstances when you said it's not really needed, but in certain circumstances when people are overweight,
right,
they need to remove it for health reasons. But I see people doing it because they just want a smaller waist, or they just want to, you know, bigger breasts, and it's like, or a bigger butt, and the butt is all right. I mean, what type of people shouldn't get plastic surgery?
So the type of person that probably this would not be ideal for, the type of patient, is someone with a lot of health issues. Someone that is prone to clotting, I probably would not suggest it. Somebody that has a lot of pre-existing conditions, and only, you know, you as the patient would know that, and the surgeon, and me, who's getting the information. But there are some cases that there's patients that suffer from critical conditions that, you know, I would not recommend having plastic surgery. As far as aesthetically goes, I think that both men and women, we have the power to pick and choose how we want to look, right? And what works for us. So if it's at that point, if it's just for aesthetic purposes, that's your choice. You know what I mean? That's your decision. Not ideal patient would be somebody with a lot of health issues. But of course, everything is up for discussion. There's a lot of questions that we ask the patient in case of having those kinds of conditions to see if they are apt for, you know, to be in the OR, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I know you and I were talking off camera, and I was asking you about healthcare over in the States versus here.
Yeah.
Is healthcare better here than it is in the U.S.?
So that's a good question. I think that here you have a lot more access to a lot of things. Here you can buy a health insurance plan for $40 a month, and it covers a wider range of, you know, different kinds of services.
Mm-hmm.
As far as just the treatments, I'd say it's completely different. You know, I have insurance in the States and I also have insurance here. And if you have certain insurances in the States, you can get things done for free, but it's never going to cover plastic surgery, right? Or if you have a complication from plastic surgery, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Here, it can. You know what I mean? That just, it would vary. But yeah, I think that in general, the big comparison for me in both countries is the treatment, especially after the post-op treatment from any kind of procedure.
So what surprises you the most about some of your clients when they arrive here?
What surprises me? That they're everyday people, just like you and I, you know, that they're moms, they work, they have regular lives, and that they're really invested in being the best version of themselves. I meet really amazing people from all walks of life, you know, patients that have taught me things, patients that I have taught them things, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful experience. If I was in another industry, I wouldn't be able to meet the wonderful people that I meet now. Yeah.
So what is the average cost for a procedure like a mommy makeover?
Good question. All right. So right now, more or less, depending on what doctor you go to in the Dominican Republic, the average cost for a mommy makeover is about $7,000.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say, and just make this clear, that does not include the recovery house. It does not include your flights and like post-op care. That would just be for the procedure.
Okay. And so what will the recovery house cost after that?
So a recovery house can be anywhere for 15 days, anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000, depending on the house, depending on whether you want a private room, just different things.
So do they charge you that by the week or they charge you by the day?
No, it would just be like a total cost,
A
like
total
for the
cost.
entire time that you're in the country, yeah.
Okay, guys. So let's switch gears just a little bit, because I know when people talk about plastic surgery and things like that, they consider that medical tourism mostly.
Mm-hmm.
But also a lot of people travel here also for dental work too as
Yes.
well. Is that a big part of what you see as well?
Yes, so people love coming here and getting beautiful smiles. So that is a big part of, that's included as well in medical tourism. So I do that as well. I help people, get their dream smiles.
Right.
And that's amazing.
So why do you think people travel to the Dominican Republic for this type of dental work?
Yeah, so I'm going to be honest and, take out the elephant in the room because of pricing, right? That's
Right.
everybody's first interest, I'd say.
Right.
But again, I do think that people really do understand that the treatment that you get here compared to, anywhere else is optimal and it's ideal compared to other places.
Gotcha. And what are some of the dental procedures mostly people are traveling here for?
Yeah, so basically veneers. Mostly veneers, whether it's composite or porcelain veneers. We also get a lot of people that come from implants, for dental implants. That is a very big one as well. Then we have smaller like teeth cleaning and stuff like that, but that means they're already here and they're just like, hey, let me get my teeth cleaned, whitened. But for the most part, it's veneers and like dental implants for sure. And dentures is a big thing here as well.
Okay. How much can one save realistically by getting dental work done here versus in the U.S.?
Great question. So in the United States, if you want a full, in the United States, let me just preface this by saying they don't do composite veneers for the most part. They do porcelain. So porcelain right now in the United States is rounding anywhere from $20,000 to $30,000. I do know that there's other states that might do it a little bit cheaper, but for the most part, that is what the market is at this moment for porcelain.
Okay. And how much is porcelain here?
Yeah, so porcelain here can be anywhere from $7,000 to $9,000, depending on, the case, if you need any teeth fixed, any restoration, etc.
Okay. So tell us, because until you told me the other day, I didn't know the difference between composites and porcelain. What's the difference?
So composites are, I'd say, more relative to like lumineers is what they call them in the United States. They're basically caps that are put over your teeth. You do not have to shave anything down. They do shave a little bit of the enamel so that the cap can stay. And then they laser them on. So composites have a shelf life of about, I want to say 5 years. If you're lucky, if you don't drink wine, if you don't eat chicharrón, if you don't eat hard things, your composites can last you about 5 years.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So porcelain, they're more translucent. Porcelain mimic more of your regular tooth structure. They take a little bit longer to get done. You do have to get molds done, etc. However, porcelain can last you, and in some cases they do shave down your teeth. Not to nubs anymore because we've superseded that technology already. Like it's different now. But porcelain do stay, I want to say, if you treat them well, if you're kind to your teeth, 20 years.
Okay. Yeah. That's a long time.
That's a long time.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially for $7,000 to $9,000. That's a long time.
It's a good investment.
Right. That's a good investment. Okay. Do you do the same in terms of helping them choose a trustworthy dentist here to do those procedures?
Yes. So the same thing, a patient would contact me. I would get pictures of their teeth. I would go ahead and quote them on the procedure according to what the dentist suggests. And then the same thing, I'd book them. I'd get them here. Sometimes I pick up patients from the airport. And then I bring them over to the dentist. They get their process started. If you're doing composite, those veneers are done in 1 day. If you're doing porcelain, that veneer is about a 10-day process.
Okay, because I was going to ask you how long do they have to stay.
Yeah.
So 1 day for composites and 10 days for a veneer. Why is it so long? Is it because it's procedure work, but it's not like aftercare, is it?
No, so it's not aftercare.
Okay.
It's honestly, so for composite, they are prepping your teeth and then lasering on. They're building the tooth on top of each tooth. So they're not caps that are already made. They make it as you go.
Okay.
So that appointment takes anywhere from 4 to 5 hours. So that's why that one can be done in one day. However, the porcelain process is a little bit more tedious. They have to take molds of your teeth. They have to send it to a lab. Those, you have to get the teeth actually made and et cetera, et cetera. So it's a different process.
Okay, so the procedure doesn't take that long. It's just the different steps.
For the composite, the procedure is just one day, like those 4 hours. For porcelain, it's actually over 2 days because you have the first day, they're prepping your teeth, they're taking the molds. You gotta wait 10-ish days for the molds, and then it's the implantation process.
Okay.
So yeah, and that, I think that appointment takes about 4 hours the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what surprises, or what do you see surprises people the most about when they get their dental work done here?
I don't know. I think they love their teeth, and maybe they weren't expecting it to be such a smooth process.
Right.
I think that people come here and they have a lot of anxiety. Again, I'm just gonna keep saying it because of the language, the language barrier. But I think that once they come here and they see that, one, people really try to speak English too. So Dominicans love the opportunity to practice their English with you. And two, just the overall process. I think that just the way the Dominican Republic is portrayed in general, nobody expects it to be as advanced as it is, just from history. But I think that's what surprises people the most, yeah.
Okay. So it seems like dental tourism is like a huge part of the medical tourism here as well. So if someone is traveling here for the first time, what type of research do you recommend them do?
So that's a great question. Type of research. So we have a website. It's called Sodo Cipre. Sodo Cipre is like our board certified website here. So it would be comparison to the board certification in the United States. So that is a great first step. What you would do is, it's very user friendly. You would go to the website and you type in the doctor's name. Make sure that they are licensed here. First and foremost, make sure that they are licensed here. Absolutely. So once you see that they are on the website and they are licensed, it's always good to meet other patients. There's a lot of different social media groups that you can join. So that would be your best bet. But always, always, always make sure that they are board certified in this country.
Yeah. Because I was going to ask you, what are some of the red flags that they should look for? And license is one. Is there something else they should look for?
If it's a doctor, let's say you message them, right? And they're like an ophthalmologist and they're doing plastic surgery as well. That would be a red flag to me. You know what I mean? Like if it's a doctor that should be doing hair transplants, but they're also doing plastic surgery. For me, that would be a little strange. You know what I mean? So that might be a red flag. Again, the communication, I will repeat, if they are not attentive to you before surgery, unfortunately, they won't be afterwards. So I think those are two, aside from board certification, those are two very, important things.
Right.
Yeah.
Is there a craziest or most unexpected situation you had to handle with a patient?
Yes, I've had plenty. If the patient is watching, I apologize in advance for saying this story, but I will not name any names. But I did have a time which was probably like my craziest experience in this job. We had a patient that had a tumor. She did not disclose that she had a tumor. She was about to go into surgery. The surgeon found the tumor. Unfortunately, they called me and said, hey, we can't operate on her because she has a tumor. And, the patient woke up from anesthesia and she wasn't operated on, right? So you can imagine what that reaction was like.
Right.
So she woke up from anesthesia. I will also say that once you wake up from anesthesia, your body takes a while to process anesthesia. So you can get angry, violent, irate, all the things.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So she was very not happy. And it turned into a whole escalation issue. So unfortunately, she was released to her recovery house. She went to the recovery house and she broke everything in the recovery house. They had to call the police on her. She actually ended up going to jail.
Here?
Dominican jail.
Wow.
Yeah. She ended up going to jail. She was locked up from Friday to Sunday. At Sunday afternoon, they sent her a lawyer from the embassy. And they made her pay all the damages that she, created at the recovery house. And then, they asked her kindly to get her things and they escorted her to the airport. And, that was that situation. So just FYI, guys, try to not get Dominican police involved, and
You don't want to go to a Dominican jail anyway.
You do not.
Right.
No. So it was an unfortunate situation.
So she woke up and she didn't have a butt there, huh? That she wanted.
Correct.
Hey, what happened to my butt that I paid you?
She was like, Yara, I don't know what happened, but they didn't operate me. And I was like, well, my love, you had a tumor and you didn't tell us. It was benign, but she knew about it too. That's the craziest part of all of it.
You have to disclose everything.
You have to disclose it, and she didn't disclose, unfortunately. And thank God that the surgeons here are so thorough and they found it, before they went forward with anything. So yeah.
Just to be clear with everyone watching, that you're not the one that's doing the medical procedures yourself. You help coordinate and guide people through the process with a licensed doctor and through the procedure step by step. Is that correct?
Correct. So I am not the surgeon, you guys. I want to be clear with that as well. I am the one who takes care of everything administratively and also operationally, clinically. So I will be the one that is your surgery bestie. I will be with you every step of the way to do the entire process, to translate whatever it is that you guys need. I'm with you throughout the entire process. I am just not the one that's operating.
Okay, so for anyone that is watching who is interested in medical tourism here in Dominican Republic and want to explore additional options, how could they get in contact with you?
So first, thank you so much. I'm looking forward to the opportunity to assist you guys. There will be a link in the video description for a form. You guys can fill out that form with all the details, the pertinent details, and then I will be in contact with you guys.
So there you have it, guys, the inside scoop on medical tourism. This has been educational for me as well, because I learned something new, because I didn't know what a mommy makeover consists of. So I definitely know when I hear that on Instagram and TikTok, I know what they're saying.
Now you know what it is.
I know what they're saying. So remember, always keep your goals at the forefront of your mind. Always live in the present, because that's the only way you're going to live your best life. When we out. Peace.
Bye.
Je begon aan mijn best life, yeah. Je begon aan mijn best life, yeah. Something you and me, oh. Je begon aan mijn best life, yeah. Jumping, flexing,